Oh, come on inside. How about a cup of coffee? We got 36 years of memories right here. See where we've been for the last 3 decades. Places we've been, the people we've met, I want to share those with you. This is Memories from the Shoebox. Hey, welcome back to another week of Memories from the Shoebox. So we've been focusing on the history of Emerald City. Part 1, Part 2, and today we talk about Part 3. We talk about the 90s. Last week, when we left you, it was the end of the 80s. It was 1989, November. 5 of the guys left for bigger and better things, and I had to put another band together. And I only had 1 month to do it because I had gigs coming up in December of 1989. So I'm going to talk about some of the musicians that we went out, recruited, brought into the band, and how those musicians changed the sound of Emerald City and how we became kind of a different band. All right, so now we're talking about the end of 1989, 1990. Take a look at our band. So the only 3 people left in this picture from the late 80s was John Aletta, myself, and Dave Butler. Dave Butler is one of the only members besides myself that's been in the band since the very beginning, and he still plays with Emerald City. He developed a new trombone, a carbon fiber trombone that's now being sold all over the world. Dave Butler is like Mr. Emerald City from the past, right? Because he's still with us. So we needed a bass player. There's somebody came to mind, Duane Hagar, and I'll tell you why. In the late 80s, Duane used to come out and hang with the band. He used to listen to Mike Medina play, and when we needed a bass player at the very end of 89, 90, Duane Hagar was the guy I called. He has become my brother. He's still in the band, incredible bass player, super kind gentleman, and I love him. Then we needed another trumpet player. Jim Foster came into our life at the very end of 89, 1990. Jim Foster is still with the band. Jim Foster is my brother. I love the guy, and we're probably going to do a whole episode on Jim Foster because he's a character. Tony Wilcox. So when we needed a keyboard player, Tony Wilcox was somebody that I ran into in an elevator at a club. He was going to do a gig with one band. I was going to another stage. I turned to him and said, "Hey, do you want to be in Emerald City?" And he said, "Yes." And boy, were we lucky because this guy not only plays great keyboards, but he was a great vocalist. Needed a drummer. Looking around, I remembered a guy from Detroit named Tony Pia that came down to Texas and went to North Texas State University. Called him up. He joined a band, was only in the band for maybe about a half a year. Adam Palma, you remember him from the beginning of the 80s. He left. Dave Barnett came in. Now Adam came back. 1990, Adam Palma came back. John Aletta was still in the band. Mark Early took Ron Jones's place on saxophone. Mark Early, incredible saxophonist, and you'll see him playing on some video coming up. So check this photo out. This is the end of 1990. The lineup remained the same, except for our drummer. Tony Pia left, and we brought Kenny Evans in as a full-time drummer. Kenny had been with Buster Brown, and when he left that band, we recruited him. He came into Emerald City, and Kenny's from Oklahoma City, actually, and fantastic drummer. So right about that time, about 1990, Emerald City opened its second club. Some of you remember, on McKenney Avenue. Check this photo out. This is one of our promo shots, standing on the roof of our club, McKenney Avenue, which has now become Uptown. And this is the club where we recorded our first CD called Live and Kickin'. Let me show you that CD real quick. Check it out, Live and Kickin'. By the way, I'm going to put all this music on our website, bonus material for you. So make sure you go to Emerald City Band website, check out Memories from the Shoebox, where you can catch extra video, extra music, all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to put that on there for you. Okay, so you remember in 1990, we opened our second club on McKenney Avenue, Emerald City. Well, a year later, 1991, Emerald City opens the Broadway Grill. How many of you remember the Broadway Grill? Located in Addison, on Addison Road. Man, we had a great time at that club, and it was always packed. Emerald City played there all the time. Groups like the Pitchers played there from Austin, and the Clocks from San Antonio. So taking you back to memory lane, huh? Okay, so if you forgot about the Broadway, how about if I show you some video? Check this out. Now that's just some of the video I'm going to show you today about the 90s. All right, so the next photograph I want to show you is Emerald City, 92 to 93. Practically the same band that I introduced you to last year, the year before. Tony, Jim, Kenny, Adam, Duane. But look here, in the white coat, let me introduce to you Keith Anderson. I've known Keith probably before he was legal to even go into clubs. He started playing with us. He went to school at the Arts Magnet. He went to school with Erykah Badu. He's played with Les McCann. The last band that Prince had together, he was on a road with Prince. I'm telling you, Keith Anderson is considered one of the best saxophonists in the world. And Emerald City's had the pleasure of having him in the band. Even to this day, he's still with Emerald City. I love Keith Anderson. All right, so there was a lot of action in 1994. So now we're in 94, and we introduced to you Fulton Turnage on saxophone and Randy Wild, looking wild. And that's in 94. Randy was a great keyboard player, great singer, and Fulton is a fabulous saxophone player. So that made Emerald City even better. Also in 94, our second TV show called Sports Wave. Check this video out. See if you remember.
So get up and say what's on your mind. Love is fixing me fine. Take mine. So get up, say what's on your mind. Love is fixing me fine. Take mine.
They are good, Emerald City. Oh, man. Welcome back to Sports Waves.
Another TV show we did in 1996 was called Net Talk Live. Really interesting show. Really had nothing to do with sports, but it had everything to do with computers, technology, things that people could use. And you got to remember at that time, people were just getting heavily involved in crossing formats. The cool thing about this show was you could actually watch it on your computer, you could watch it on your TV, or it's actually broadcast on FM radio. So it was one of those multimedia kind of crossing format shows, first of its kind. That was 96. Check this video out.
All my friends know the low rider.
Stay tuned. Here's what's coming up next on Net Talk Live.
Pseudo.com. Now, this is a really fun...
Sumo?
Pseudo.
Pseudo.com.
Pseudo.com, and it's a really, really fun site.
So in 1998, something unusual happened. Up until then, starting from the beginning, about 83, all the way to 98, no females, no girl singers in the band. And we made a transition to that because I started thinking, how are we going to get into some corporate events? How are we going to do weddings? And I knew by looking at other show groups that there was always some female vocalists. So that was when we decided to bring in our first full-time singer, and that was Claire Wilcox. Now Claire, since then, is still in one of our bands. You know, Emerald City Management, we've developed through the years, we have 5 bands. She's actually the band leader now of one of our bands. So she's been a long time member of our organization, great singer, detail-oriented. So we were happy when we got her in the band, and that was the start of bringing female vocalists in the band, 1998. Now, next week I'm going to talk about how 2000 changed the course of Emerald City. we got bigger. And we got bigger in a lot of ways. The band got bigger. This is when we added more female vocalists. This is when we added some show. But then we started playing all sorts of huge events all over the country. So that started about 2000. So in the 80s, it was a club band. In the 90s, we started developing, brought a female vocalist. In 2000, the history of Emerald City, part 4. Next week, we talk about Emerald City getting bigger. See you then.